Hello, everyone, and welcome to Project Insight's IT methodology training. Today's topic is project close and delivery. So just a few things to know before we get started. All participants will be on mute. However, any questions you have are more than welcome. Please type them into the questions box, which you can find on your GoToWebinar dashboard. Also, we do not send out a PDU certificate for this particular webinar. However, it may be valid for PDU credit. So this would be considered a self-reported session. And for more information, check out our article on webinars and PDUs. My name is Alexa, and I'll be your moderator for today. I'm on the marketing team here at Project Insight. And if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to reach me at alexa.ortega-mendoza@projectinsight.com. And for those of you not familiar with us, Project Insight has been dedicated to developing and providing web-based project management software to help teams work better together for over 15 years. We'd also like to share some exciting news that PI was named Best Project Management Solution at this year's SIA Cody Awards for continuing to innovate the project management industry. From our enterprise platform that delivers optimal performance for centralizing projects, to our latest platform, PI Team, our free social project management software, we've got you covered. You can request your free demo or sign up for PI Team at the URLs listed on the slide there. And of course, if you'd like to learn more about our products, please feel free to contact us via phone or email. So we'd like to give a warm welcome to our presenter today, Cameron Watson. Cameron is president of QAIassist. Welcome, Cameron, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Alexa. I appreciate the introduction. And before we go too far, I also want to welcome everybody, and I would like to make an acknowledgement here. Alexa has been nothing but the backbone in helping us deliver these sessions. I know that, on the hunt, she makes the introduction and she introduces things as far as the webinar. But there's a lot of hard work that goes on behind everything and coordinating these sessions, and she is a big part of it. And I just wanted to say thank you for that, Alexa, to everybody. And I guess maybe we're ready to start something here. I'm wondering, as far as today's session, I know Alexa usually put a poll up. I'm just going to try and
I'll go ahead and launch the poll here. I pass presenter rights to you.
Okay, I think I have it. I'm just wanting to get you to confirm.
Yes, I can definitely see your screen.
You can see something there, and you can see that who's on the call. That's the poll, and let me try and enlarge that. Do we have it?
Yes, we have it. I went ahead and launched the poll.
Okay, thanks, and appreciate it. Now, I was hoping everybody, as with all the sessions, I'd like to get an idea of who may be in the audience today, and it helps as I go through the presentation, depending on who may be out there. Welcome to all, and I just hope maybe take a second to get back to that poll. Are we getting any kind of feedback, Alexa, at all?
Yes, so we have, looks like a majority are project managers on the call, and we have about 7% who are business or operational managers.
Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you, everybody. That pretty much follows. More project managers here today than usually. We're about 75% with the project managers, but welcome the business managers, and for those other roles that may not be defined here, welcome. And without further ado, let's proceed. I just want to make a quick introduction as far as who we are, as far as QAIassist. We've been around for 10 years, and we specialize in IT methodology, knowledge, and expertise, and we support a community. So we maintain different IT methodology products and life cycles, and we administer formal certifications, be it foundation and practitioner. And we also support practitioners and authorized affiliates in acquiring and delivering IT methodology, knowledge, and expertise. And there's been no relationship more far-reaching or longer-standing than the one we have at Project Insight. So that is part of the reason why we coordinate to deliver these sessions. As far as the audience, we have, with Project Insight, delivered many webinars. and we've had over 10,000 registered to the different sessions that we've been delivering. We're trying to nurture the IT methodology knowledge and expertise across the globe, and there are people from over 200 countries, every different industry you could think of, and there's been more than 50 unique webinars that have been delivered. So here's a little bit of a list of who we've had and who probably are here today. So I'd like to welcome everybody and let you know that you're not alone, and we're just building the critical mass of knowledge as far as IT methodology. And I'd just like to welcome everybody. Now, as far as goals, we've set a set of goals for 2017. And we have a common set of goals across all of the webinar sessions that we deliver. And the picture, what I'm trying to depict here is the idea of a teacher or perhaps a tour guide. And what I'm trying to get across here is there are no questions that are not valuable, be it during the session or after the session. And I want to welcome everybody today. If there's something and we're touching on the material that they want more clarity on, please, the message box is there. And if not, you can send them into the email addresses that have been provided in the session. And I just want to welcome everybody to pose questions. And I do believe we have a 100% record in responding to every question that we do get. So as far as the goals, questions are available. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to share IT methodology knowledge. And we're trying to develop an understanding and expertise in various methodologies, specifically project management, software development, software testing. We want to discuss practices as we go through all these different sessions as far as how we're going to incorporate this to make things better, be it at your own organization or at your client site, as far as best practices for methodology and incorporating it. And we also like to promote an ongoing dialogue and feedback with the webinar audience. I've asked as far as who may be out here. So I like to try and do that. We have sent out surveys. I do correspond via email. So you may in the future get an email from me, or you may see a survey, and I would appreciate anybody taking the time to provide their insight or any feedback that they may have. So those are the common goals that we've had for all of our sessions. As we said, there are sessions throughout the year. We've broken it down into two different types. One is the concept sessions, and one other tutorials. The concept sessions, what we're trying to do is introduce content, trying to introduce context and overview and terminology to do with different life cycles or methodologies. The tutorials are more specific. What we're trying to do, there's 5 of them, is we're trying to get more of a hands-on experience. We're trying to bridge the concepts into practical utilization. So throughout the year, we've been developing a case study, and all of the deliverables and all of the webinars that are being provided are available on the Project Insight website. I'm going to show you what they are, and maybe I'll have to wait till the end to show you, but we have a list of them, and they are available on the Project Insight website. So with all of our sessions, we have a common set of goals that we try and accomplish through each of the sessions. So for today, the goals are we want to understand the previous delivered tutorials. We said that we do have tutorials, and there's a case study, and we delivered them in February, April, June, and August. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through each and all of those to make sure everybody understands how we get to the project closeout. Now, to get more specificity, or exactness as far as the content, you're going to have to go back in and look at the specific deliverables that are available on the Project Insight website. Okay, then we're going to, after we get up to speed on all of the tutorials and how we got there, then we're going to discuss the project closeout objectives. We're going to go over what we're trying to do here in this phase. Then we're going to go into the roles in closing out the project from as far as the project team perspective, and give a description of what the role is and what they should be looking for as we complete things and we wrap things up. Okay, and then at the end, we're going to hopefully take some time to go over the project closeout deliverables specifically, and that'll be the end of the tutorial sessions. So, as per normal, we have an agenda for all of our sessions, and here is today's session. I like to, at the start of all the sessions, get everybody on the same page. So we'll do a quick glance at the context as far as IT methodology and talk about some of the terminology and hierarchy and construct. And as I mentioned, we're going to go over the different tutorials quickly, and we'll touch on all of them. And then we are going to go to the project close and delivery and go through what the objectives are, what the administration of the deliverables are, what the roles are, and wrap up with the project closeout deliverable. So that's what we've got on tap for today. And without further ado, let us jump into the first bullet. Here is the slide that starts it all. Terms, terms, and more terms. Every session I talk about this. We've seen the terms IT framework, IT methodology, IT lifecycle. There is no standard usage in terminology within the industry, or for that matter, within organizations. These terms are used interchangeably across the industry. You may have heard examples at one organization, they call it a project management framework. At another organization or on another project team, they call it a project management lifecycle or methodology. Similarly, for software development, you may have heard of an SDLC or a software development methodology or a software testing framework or lifecycle. I'm not trying to get caught up in which of these words is more apt. I'm not trying to say which of them is more applicable in your case or at your client site. All I'm trying to bring to the attention of everybody is when we're talking about methodology and life cycle, we have to understand the context. Okay, so that being stated, and as the premise, the bottom bullet is highlighted. And it says every organization is using an IT methodology or life cycle or framework. And I put this bullet in here to bring something that I hope is rather obvious, in that the idea of developing or delivering a product or a service in today's world is reliant on having or using or utilizing information technology. If an organization is using a paper and a pen today, they are probably not going to be successful. We have to rely on technology and information technology specifically to help us deliver and support and maintain products and or services. So every organization is using information technology. Now, to be able to support or deliver product or services, they are following an approach. They are following a method. They are following a life cycle or a framework to be able to deliver that product or service or support that product or service. Now, I'm not suggesting any or all of these organizations are optimizing the methodology they're using, or I'm not saying it's the best practice. I'm not saying it's the most efficient method that they're using. All I'm saying is somewhere to get something out the door at the end of the day, a product or a service, organizations are using information technology, and by using information technology, there are methods and life cycles and frameworks that they are applying operationally to deliver those products and or services. Okay. Now, when we talk about IT methodology, I try and categorize it in different ways. I've used a map as an analogy. And I define IT methodology in the context of a noun and in the context of a verb. And I'm going to introduce some terms here. What we see is a map. And this map is very stable. It's been there for decades. It doesn't change. We see the roads on it, and you know, okay, if I'm trying to get from one point to another point, well, the roads aren't going to change. That's how when I'm talking about IT methodology in the context of a noun, it's the actual map. So think of your own locale, your own city, or wherever, and you know, if you're going to the grocery store, or if you're going to your daughter's baseball game, or whatever, there is a map that you can use to get from point A to point B. That, and we're talking about IT methodologies in the context of a noun. Okay, now that is going to be different than how we use the map. Okay, that is how we use the map. That's in the context of the verb. So let me cite a few examples here. So in the noun, say it's the road map. We're talking about IT methodology in the context of a verb. This is the journey that we take along the road. There's a distinction here. And we're talking about methodologies. There's a distinction here. Sometimes it's the noun, it's the roadmap, and sometimes it's how we use the roadmap. So you may have heard terms like rational unified process or QAIassist integrated methodology or PRINCE2 or PMI. These are specific roadmaps. You may then have heard of waterfall or agile or RAD or prototyping. These are the methods or practices that a project team within organizations are going to apply when using the IT methodology in the context of a noun. So you can use a waterfall approach by using the rational unified process or agile techniques. So all I want to do with this slide is introduce that there's a distinction when we're talking about methodology in the context of the noun or the verb. Perfect. Okay, so we're talking about the noun or the roadmap, and we're talking about rational unified process or PMI or PRINCE2. All of these different methodologies define, utilize, and rely on their own predefined structure, naming conventions, and terminology. And there's a hierarchy associated with them. Methodology or life cycle could be project management life cycle or methodology, software development life cycle or methodology, or software testing. Within the methodology, there are going to be phases or stages. So you'll see terms like initiate or planning or design. And there is a lot of common terms being used as far as we're talking about phases. You'll see them in the different models. Within the phases, there are specific deliverables or artifacts or work products. So you may have heard of a project charter or a testing strategy. What these are deliverables or artifacts or work products the project team are going to work on and populate based on the characteristics of the project they're going to be completing. For instance, you would drop a project charter to start a project to build an accounting system. It defines what the project is. You would also, if you're starting another project about building a city's infrastructure, you would also have a project charter. The content within the project charters would be different, but the purpose of the project charter would always be the same. Similar with all deliverables. Okay. Within that hierarchy, we also have activities. These are going to be the tasks being performed and completed by the project team to complete the deliverables or work products or artifacts. So, yeah, we have to go to meetings to meet with the business community, for instance. Well, that's an activity. That's not a deliverable. And I'll cite a few examples here for us. Okay. So, I want to make a distinction here between deliverable and work product. A deliverable or work product versus an activity. Let's say we're going to be building an application. Well, a deliverable would be a business case. We're trying to substantiate why we're going to do the project. So we would probably have populate a business case. That's different than understanding or reviewing the business need with the operational management or the business analyst or the end users as far as what that business needs. We're still going to have to meet with these folks or as a team to be able to populate the business case. Similarly, a project plan would be a deliverable. Now, in order to populate it, we have to meet with stakeholders. We have to meet with the system owner to say, oh, this is what we think should be in the plan. Here's all the detail or the activities or the project team members or whatever, and here's the plan. But there's a distinction between the plan and meeting with the stakeholders. Similar to the user acceptance test plan. You're going to do that deliverable. We're still going to have to talk to the testing team to understand what the objectives are in the different testing environments and what the priorities are going to be. And they are going to then be incorporated into that deliverable. So I just want to draw that distinction. Okay. And we're talking about deliverables, be it a project charter, a testing strategy, or a design requirements, whatever we're talking about deliverable-wise, the one thing we know is that they're tangible. It's something we can touch, it's something we can feel, it's something we can read, it's something we can review, it's something we can argue about, it's something we can agree about, it's something we can authorize, it's something about we can put under configuration management. It's tangible. So I'm probably going to run down the list here. So it can be, because it's tangible, we can identify what it is, i.e. a project charter or a testing strategy. And because we know we're going to be populating it, we can apply a resource to complete it or resources to complete it. We can also start completion dates and cost estimates on what that deliverable is. and that will then be reflected on the project schedule. It can be assigned to project team members, as I just said. It can also be accessed by other project team members as we're going through the project, so everybody remains on the same proverbial page. So if the project manager creates a project charter and it's approved by the system owner, then all of be it the business analysts or programmers or testers can say, oh, where is the project charter? Oh, this is what we're trying to do. A, B, C, D, E. It's defined in the project charter. So everybody on the project team can access it and review it. Because it's tangible, it can be reviewed within the project team. It can be authorized by the project team. It could be the authorization could come from a group, be it the project manager and the business manager and the system architect. Whatever that team is, they will do the review of the specific deliverables and give them formal authorization for the project. They're going to alter in status as we go through their own life cycle. So a project charter would be first authored, then reviewed, approved, archived, and this is the same as far as all deliverables that are going to be created by the project team members. They're going to be reflected, these deliverables can be reflected on the project schedule. So when we look at a project schedule, I'll cite one here in a second. You're going to be able to see what the deliverables are that the project team are going to be working on. Because they're tangible, we know they're going through a life cycle of their own, be it authored or be it approved or archived or whatever, we can place them under formal configuration management. And they can also be accessed by future teams, or be it support or maintenance teams of the application, to say, oh, what was that deliverable that was created? Oh, what were the requirements? Oh, what was in that document? What's in that deliverable? So it can be used by future teams. Okay. So that being the case, and I'm going to use the QAIassist integrated methodology to go through some of these little samples here, but essentially what we have is the methodology. We have a life cycle or methodology, project management, software development, software testing. We have phases as we use them, and we have specific deliverables within each of the phases. So that's a very static or linear perspective of what methodology in the context of a noun is. Here's another way of depicting it, just another reflection of it. This is project management. Again, this is on the project schedule. This is the project insight tool that we're using to depict it. So all we see is the project management lifecycle, as we see highlighted in red here. But what we have down on the schedule are the specific deliverables. Okay, so I'm not suggesting we have to do all the deliverables, but what I'm saying is we can define all of the deliverables on a schedule. And it may be poignant here to highlight that we don't see any activities. Zero. So we know that we're going to have a project charter. Well, someone's going to have to create it. Someone's going to have to meet with the system owner. Someone's going to have to meet with the business management to get this authorized. Well, we don't have all of that activity on the schedule. All we have is a charter. Similarly, here's a software development lifecycle and the deliverables associated with it. Similarly, here's a software testing lifecycle. So again, I'm not trying to get into the dates and going over the schedule. All I'm trying to say is that there are deliverables, they're tangible, they have to be populated, they can be reflected on the project schedule. Everybody will know what the schedule is. Everybody will know who's assigned a specific deliverable and such. Okay, so that's the noun. Let's talk about the verb. And I want to touch on two in the pendulum here. The one extreme would be the waterfall methodology or life cycle in the context of a verb. The other is agile. And we're talking about waterfall. We're talking about a single iteration through the methodology. I'll go through this and cite this. There's going to be deliverables that are going to be defined, assigned, and documented. And there's a formal structure required to be able to deliver this. Okay, as far as agile goes, there's going to be more than a single iteration through the methodology or life cycle. That's different. There's going to be limited deliverable creation, and this formal structure is not necessarily required to go through all the authorization, the rigidness of approval. Okay, so let's just look at this. And again, I'm going to use the integrated methodology. So we start our project management, we initiate it, do the deliverables, whichever are needed, plan. And what we're planning for is how we're going to do the software development, software testing lifecycle, and the phases that we're going to be applying, the deliverables. They're going to be reflected in the project management deliverables, be it the plan or the schedule or the project deliverables defined. Okay, so that's where we're going. Now, we're talking about executing the project. We talked about one iteration versus two iterations. Let's say we're doing an accounting application, be it with accounts payable, accounts receivable, and payroll. Okay, when we're doing waterfall, we're going to start the systems analysis phase, and we're going to do all of the deliverables within the systems analysis phase, or the ones that are applicable to the project. Then we're going to, before we move to the design phase, we're going to make sure all of the deliverables we needed in the systems analysis phase are completed. Similarly, when we go to the design phase, we are going to do all of the necessary deliverables in the design phase before we go to the build. Similarly with the build, we're going to complete all the necessary deliverables before we go to the test and the release. But eventually, we're going to be through this one iteration of the software development and software testing lifecycle, and we're going to have all our requirements defined. We're going to have our design complete. We're going to build it. We're going to test it, and we're going to release it, and we're going to say, close. We'll close out our project. So all of our functionality for accounts receivable, accounts payable, and payroll are completed. Okay, that's a little different, and I got to go back here a little bit, that if we are doing accounting using more agile type techniques, the first iteration through the life cycle, software development, software testing life cycle, we would do payroll. And we would do the design, the build, the test, the release. And we would have that functionality built. The next iteration, we would do accounts payable. And we go through the different phases again with the deliverables, and we release it. Similarly, we'd have accounts receivable, and we go through the last iteration. When we finally got through the iteration for that, we would say, okay, now we can close out. So the point here, be it waterfall, we would do one iteration through the software development and software testing lifecycle. And if we're using agile techniques, we would use more than one iteration. So it could be 2 or 5 or whatever. I'm not going to get into all of the discussion about how many, but that's essentially what it is. Okay, that then gets us to reviewing where we got to today as far as the different sessions in February, April, June, and August. So the first session was project initiation, and that was in identifying the project. That was in February. We essentially laid out a sample project that we are going to use through all of the tutorials. Then we talked about project planning and design in April, executing the projects in June, and controlling and verifying the project in August. Okay, and as I mentioned, all of these different sessions are available on the Project Insight website. Okay, so let's go a little definition on the sample project. We talked about a company called ABC, mid-sized company, and what they were trying to do as our sample project was to incorporate outsourcing as an option into their existing operations. They didn't have that. The existing application, the functionality did not meet to incorporate the outsourcing. They did not incorporate the regulatory legislations. They did not have the necessary functionality to administer outsourcing and vendor relationships. And there was not too much stability as far as existing with the business user community, and it was limited as far as its being able to expand. We call this project Expanded Accounting System. Okay, that's a little bit of a background. And we talked about a project team, and this is the list, and we had a definition of all these different roles and what their responsibility would be, and I'll touch on that deliverable again before we're done today. But we essentially laid out all of the different roles for a project team and what they were going to be performing as the project went through the different life cycles. Okay, so project initiation. Here's the agenda in February, and we talked about identifying the business need, what we're going to do to start the project management lifecycle, what do we need to do to start the software development lifecycle and the software testing lifecycle. So what we came up with in going through this, initiating the project, we realized that there were some project management deliverables that were needed, some software development and some software testing deliverables. So the project management lifecycle deliverables we were going to do was a project charter. We needed to identify what it is, what was the scope of the project, what was the definition. We also needed to get some description on what the roles on the project were going to be and what the responsibilities were going to be. And we completed those deliverables. And again, you'll be able to see them in that particular session. We also required from the software development lifecycle the business case. We needed to know what was the purpose of doing the project. And we needed some high-level definition on the business requirements. We also knew we were going to have some initial focus on testing from the start of the project, and we started to work on a software or a testing strategy deliverable. So these were the sessions we did or the deliverables we did in February, and again, you can go and take a look at it. Then we said, okay, well, we started our project, let's plan this and see how that goes. Here's the agenda. We reviewed the previous session in February. And then we talked about the planning phase. We wanted to understand the project context, meaning we had our heads wrapped around the initiating of the project in February. We wanted to understand what the scope and the objectives with the methodology, be it for the noun and verb that we're going to be utilizing. We're going to be using what methodology, be it our rational unified process or QAIassist integrated methodology, or we're using PMI standards. And what were we going to use methodology-wise as far as the verb? Are we going to be using prototyping, or are we going to be using waterfall? We're going to be using RAD. We're going to be using agile techniques. So this is part of the discussion. And then we went into saying, okay, well, now that we've got ourselves understanding that, let's get a little understanding on planning the project and prepare the necessary project management deliverables in that session. Okay, so essentially what we did was we started the project, initiated, we knew what we were delivering, and we said, okay, we're going to plan the project. Here are the deliverables we're going to be completing. And we're going to be populating these deliverables based on what phases we're going to be doing and what deliverables we're going to be doing. And we came up with creating deliverables, project management deliverables. One was a project plan, one was a project schedule, one was the roles and responsibilities, or refining that. One was describing the actual deliverables that the project team was going to be using. We wanted to go through and complete a configuration management plan, how we are going to be handling the deliverables as far as from a formal keeping track of everything. We are also going to have a quality assurance plan to know where we're going to be reviewing how it is we are doing things. And we are also going to lay out some procedures as far as how the project team was going to be working together, be it from a status reporting to configuration management to whatever it is we populated. And we said, okay, let's get these completed. And we also knew that as we went through the project team was going to be facing hurdles, and they were going to be needing different deliverables to be able to populate as we found different imperfections. So we needed an issue log. We needed a risk log. We needed a change request log. We also wanted to lay out for the project team an understanding of the project status report, what was in it, how it was done, team status reporting, unit test defect logs, integration test defect logs, and user acceptance. So what we're trying to do is get things available to the project team members that we knew that they were going to be using. We weren't populating any of them at this time. We are only populating the project management deliverables as far as planning and resourcing and understanding the quality of the project. But we knew we were going to be using those. So that's in April, and if you wanted to go back to the Project Insight website, you'll see it there. Then we said, okay, let's execute the project. That was in June. Okay. So to be able to execute the project, the best way to explain it was to say, we have a perfect project here. There is going to be no hiccups with this project. It's going to be running smoothly. I know it's a pipe dream. I know it's heaven or nirvana. It's not going to happen. But to be able to introduce the concepts of executing a project, we said, let's use the hiccupless project. And we went through and said, okay, what are the scope of the requirements? What are the definition of the requirements? The traceability of requirements? We also wanted to talk about how there is a mandatory prerequisite for the creation of the testing plans and testing evaluation criteria based on those requirements. And then we talked about testing execution. And of course, all of the tests were perfect. Okay, so that was for June. And essentially, what we did was we ran through the software development and software testing life cycles, one phase, and we did all of the necessary deliverables. We defined our requirements, we created our design, we built the application, we tested it, we knew it was perfect, we released it, and we closed it out. That was the session in June. Okay, so we talked about I've already went through this. Okay, so we knew that we are going to probably be using the project management deliverables that we created in the previous session. So we looked at the project plan, maybe we have to revise the project schedule, maybe we have to more definition in the roles and responsibilities, maybe we incorporated some additional deliverables or removed some, tweaked our configuration management plan and the project procedures. We also knew that because it was perfect, we weren't going to be using the other project management deliverables. Okay. That gets us to project control and verification, and this was in August. And we said, this is the hiccup-filled project. This is the project that is headache. This is the problem, or the project that is reality. This is the project that we know when we start, what we think is going to happen never does. What are we going to do to control and verify the project? And essentially, we started again, we executed the project, we planned it, but as we are going through, we are hitting hiccups. We are hitting problems with design and definition of requirements. We are having problem with design as far as scaling things. We are having problem in building things as far as the technologies. We are having problem in testing, be it unit testing, user acceptance testing, and system integration testing. And we struggled with this. So what we needed to do before we closed it is we needed these potential deliverables. And although we had created them and they were empty, we had them available for the project team, be it the issue definition and log, the risk definition and log, the change request and log, status report. The project team was actually using the deliverables, the project management deliverables, to keep everybody aware in the project as far as what the status was, what the risks were, what the costs were, what the schedule were. So we're using these project management deliverables to monitor and control the project. Okay, that then says, okay, we're to today's session, and we're talking about project close and delivery. And I'm going to take a quick drink of water, if you excuse me for a second. Thanks, everybody. Back here. Okay, so project close and delivery. So we've completed the project, or for all intents and purposes, we've got everything done that we're going to close the project out. Okay, what are we going to do here? Well, we know that we're going to do a project closeout report. That's a deliverable that's been there from the outset. In our project closeout, we got some objectives we're going to try, and like all other phases of the methodology, there's some objectives we're trying to do in this phase. One is we're going to ensure that all the planned project deliverables, work products or artifacts, are completed, have received proper authorization, and are available for future use. We cannot be completed the project unless these things have been addressed. We also want to prepare a project closeout report that provides a summary of the project, how it was performed, positives, and any recommendations on how it could be improved upon. The idea here is to create something that is going to maybe benefit future teams. And as far as this closeout phase, this is going to be an iterative process within itself. We're going to, okay, where are the deliverables? Have they been all authorized? Have they been all put into proper configuration management? Okay, so it's, we're going to do a couple iterations through here. Okay. And as far as the deliverable administration, I talked probably for too long about the significance of a deliverable being tangible, meaning we can identify it, meaning we can assign it, we can reference it and read it and review it and authorize it. Okay. I also mentioned that it's going to alter in status as we go through. And I also mentioned that we're going to be placing it under configuration management. So as the project team has gone through from start to finish in using the software development and software testing lifecycle, there were different deliverables that were authored, reviewed, approved, archived, and referenced. We know that. They're on the schedule. That's what we've been working on. Well, how are we keeping track of those things? Well, as we complete this project, we know the deliverables are out there. We know that they're of different status. And we know we're going to be applying configuration management as we go through it. So why and how and where are these deliverables? We want to have our fingers wrapped around to understand where they are, to understand which ones are approved, to understand which ones are reviewed, to have some kind of a history on that, to understand the work that was done to create them. We're going to have to do this. Well, one way of looking at this, or can help support this, is we can say, okay, what were the roles and responsibilities? And I don't know if you can remember back, but I'm going to reference a deliverable here that we created long ago, almost at the start of the project. And we talked about the roles and responsibilities. You think, okay, well, we're going to find at the start of the project. But there's other things involved in this deliverable. The hierarchy structure of the project, which we used, the project role definition and responsibilities, and the RACI matrix. And I am going to just jump into that. I don't know if anybody recollects this, but when we go into this deliverable, here is our roles and responsibilities deliverable. And it looks the same as everybody, as all the other deliverables. I know the content is different, but essentially, this is what we did with this deliverable. We defined its context. We laid out the project hierarchy. And then we defined the roles and responsibilities, who they were, what their jobs were, and what they're accountable for in the project. But the last thing we did in this deliverable, we had a responsibility matrix. So essentially, what we did, here's the different roles and the different team members and what they're doing. But essentially, as we're closing out the project, we had a list in this matrix of what the different deliverables that were going to be completed were. We also see who was accountable or responsible for them. So we can use this deliverable and the contents of it to say, oh, this deliverable, where is it? Has it been reviewed? Has it been approved? It's just going to act as a cross-reference for us to make sure that when we're closing out the project, that we have everything orderly. So that's the deliverable that we can use. Now, what else can we use? We know in our planning phase, we also had project procedures. We did that deliverable. It was reviewed. It was approved. Well, the project procedures is going to define what and how the project team is going to perform within itself. It's going to guide the work of the project team, and it can be applicable to anything. It can be applicable to time and status reporting, deliverable administration, configuration management, risk and issue reporting. All kinds of things can be used, this deliverable can be used for. So, again, I'm just going to jump in, and let me see what I can find here. And again, it looks and feels the same. I'll just go down to the table of contents. Okay, so here's the table of contents for the procedures deliverable. And we talked about status reporting in it, and we talked about configuration management and deliverable administration. And essentially, we can use this deliverable, which we created a long time ago. And what we're going to do is go through all of the definition here in configuration management, understand the formatting standards, file naming standards, deliverable status, what it is, version control, and how we're going to do it. And we can just use this as a basis to help guide, to ensure that all the deliverables that we've completed on the project team are in order according to this. So it's going to guide us as we go through the project. Okay, that's there. Okay. Now, that being the case, and in wrapping up the project, we talked about all these different roles that we have on the project team. What we're going to do is say, okay, let's look at these roles and let's see where they had their fingers in the project, what they were kind of accountable for or responsible for based on the roles and responsibilities, and let's just do a quick review of what that is. So we know we had an owner, someone who was going to be the final decision maker. Well, their role in the project essentially was to authorize the product before it was put into the production environment. Okay, so what are they, is the owner going to be interested in? Well, I would think at the end that they better be looking at the project status report. We know the project status report was completed as the project team went through the duration of the project. And it was highlighting what the schedule was, what the costs were, any issues. That was in the project status report. So they want to look at that final status report to see if there's anything glaring or to make sure that everything is okay. They also would want to take a look at the user acceptance test authorization. This is the final sign-off to say that everything has successfully passed all of the conditions of the user acceptance test. So the system owner is probably want to say, okay, let's look at these and say, okay, I'm comfortable, we can go. And of course, the project owner is probably going to look at the project closeout report to ensure that it summarizes all of the things that went on in the project. So that's the owner of the project. There are going to be business stakeholders, and they too have roles and responsibilities. And in summarizing it, you get defined here. Their responsibility is to authorize the product application satisfies the requirements and the business need. Okay, so their primary deliverables, what they're going to be looking for is, we know as we defined our requirements, we kept them in a requirements traceability matrix. That's fine. Well, they will have their eyes on this traceability matrix to make sure all of the requirements that were identified have essentially been addressed, to make sure that they exist and is in that inventory. They will also go through all of the different testing defect logs. We know we're keeping track of defects in all of the different testing environments, be it unit testing, system integration testing, user acceptance testing. They're going to look at all of those defect logs to say, oh, okay, everything's been addressed. There is no more defects in any of those system logs. And they'd also want to be taking a look at a change request log, meaning if there's different functionality that they were to be incorporated as we went through the creation of the application, they'll want to have in mind what's outstanding as far as functionality that we may want to incorporate in an additional release or a new project going forward. So these are some of the things that a stakeholder is going to be looking at as far as deliverable. Here's our project manager. And again, the roles and responsibilities are defined, and in summarizing, they are to deliver the project based on the authorized plan that's been approved by the stakeholders and the system owner. And they're going to complete the formal authorization and administer the project and the activities that were being done. And their primary responsibility at closeout is going to make sure the issue log, the risk log, the change request log, go through them to make sure that everything is clean and fine. They want to go through all of the testing authorizations to make sure they have been authorized and completed. And they're going to contribute, maybe even author, the project closeout report. Then we have the business analyst. In summary, their role was to ensure the business requirements are incorporated and tested for the application of the product being produced. And their primary deliverables, as far as when they're closing out the project, is to go through the detailed solution design to make sure the requirements that they've been able to identify are incorporated into that design. Look at the traceability matrix to make sure anything that's been identified has been addressed. They too want to go through the defect logs. That then gets us to the architect. And essentially their role is to make sure that the application or product has been developed to satisfy the requirements, and it's designed to be leveraged in the business environment. And their primary deliverables that they're going to be looking at close out of the project is the high-level solution design deliverable, and the detailed solution design to make sure all of the requirements and how they all fit together have been incorporated into the final solution being delivered. That then gets us to the developer, the programmer. And their role essentially was to build the product according to the authorized business requirements and the programming specifications that have been defined. And their primary deliverable are going to be the detailed solution design deliverables, which is the foundation for driving out the programming specifications, the code, and the defect logs. They are the ones that are going to have to perhaps alter the code in the unit testing environment if the requirements are not satisfied, or if there is a hiccup in the criteria that's been defined has not been satisfied by the functionality being delivered. Similarly, in the system integration environment. So they're going to have to look at all of the different logs to make sure that any problems or hiccups that have been found have been addressed. Alter the application of the code accordingly, depending. So there may be several iterations in each or any or all of these different environments. The testers on the project team, essentially wrapping or summarizing their responsibility, is to make sure that the application being built is according to the requirements, is built according to the requirements. We already knew what the requirements were. We already defined what the criteria was to satisfy those requirements, and they are using those requirements and that criteria to actually evaluate the functionality. So their primary deliverable are the testing plans are going to contribute to that, how they're going to be doing the unit testing, the system integration testing, the user acceptance testing. They're going to also be defining and applying and referencing the evaluation criteria based on the requirements in all three testing environments. They're going to be reviewing the testing defect logs to make sure there is nothing left at the end of the day, that everything has been satisfied. We're also going to have a quality assurance function on the project team. And in summary, summarizing their role is to say, okay, did they apply the process as we had authorized it from a corporate perspective? They'll be looking at the quality assurance plan and the project closeout report. And of course, the most important of all is the end user. And their role is to utilize the project or the application that's been developed. And the primary deliverable for them is the training and support plan that was created as far as how this application or product is going to be used. They are going to actually be applying it or using the product. So that then gets us back to our agenda and the project closeout deliverable. And here it is, and we're going to take a quick look at it. So the project close, as we said, is to the objective assessment of how the project evolved. It's intended to help future teams with lessons learned. So if we take a quick look at this, here is our project closeout sample. And what are we going to do with this deliverable? We're going to provide a summary of what it is, a context for the deliverable. We're going to lay out the project team who is involved. We're going to talk about the quality, the evaluation of the criteria versus the results. And we're going to be talking about the milestones, the plans versus the actual, and the lessons learned. So populating this deliverable, and I'm not going to go into all of the detail of it, but it summarizes what happened on the project, who the project team was, what the evaluation criteria was as far as the project management deliverables, the software development deliverables, and the testing deliverables. So there's going to be a response as far as how the project team did perform those different life cycles. And there's going to be an assessment as far as when we thought it was going to go and how it did go as far as the milestones. Then there's going to be a description of the lessons learned, so future project teams can actually hopefully learn something from this. So that gets us through to the end of the session as far as today. I know we're going to touch on a few things here, wrap things up. But essentially, in recapping, we talked at the start about the context for IT methodology. We also talked about getting everybody up to speed on the different sessions. And again, all of them are available on the Project Insight website. You see the dates here, and you can reference them. They are marked accordingly. And then we went into the review of the project close and deliveries to make sure that everything is, all the T's are crossed and the I's dotted, that we can happily put this application into the production environment and the users are going to be content that the requirements are there and authorized and it is reflective of what their need and the business need is. So that being the case and wrapping up, I just wanted to share with people here that there's a body of knowledge, some of the content we went in today, available on the QAIassist website. There's a body of knowledge. If you have some time to take a look around and snoop around, who knows what you might bump into, be it different articles that have been written or descriptions of the deliverables. And that being said, until the next session, I'm not sure, Alexa, if there's any questions outstanding for today's session, and I'd be more than happy to field them. You may want to explore the body of knowledge. You might want to find out more about becoming a practitioner. Perhaps you could tell your friends about the sessions and have them join us at the next session. And on occasion, I send out a survey, and as I said, I like to interact with the audience to get their sense of what it was and how it was and what could be incorporated or improved. So you may get an email from me, and hopefully you get a time to respond. So as far as the sessions go, we talked about the concept sessions and tutorials. This is the last tutorial session, and again, they're all available on the Project Insight website. And the final concept session is going to be implementing IT methodology. That's in November. And that brings us back to my good friend and the Brain Trust for delivering all of this. And Alexa, I'm not sure if there are any questions. I think we're on time, and I'll turn it back to you and leave it to your knowledge and expertise.
Great. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Thank you, everybody.
So we currently don't have any questions, but if anyone has any questions at all, go ahead and feel free to reach me again at alexa.ortega-mendoza@projectinsight.com. So I'm going to go ahead and take presenter rights here. And so if you would like a customized demo, you can go ahead and schedule and do so by giving us a call. And you can also fill out a demo request form at projectinsight.net. And if you would like more info on QAI Assist, please feel free to reach out to Cameron Watson via phone, email, or visit their website at www.QAIassist.com. And for those of you on social media, I'd like to invite you to follow, like, and subscribe to our social media channels. Our handle on Twitter is @ProjectInsight. And you can also find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for the latest in PI and project management news. And in our Project Insight community, you'll find many recorded videos, as Cameron was saying, and webinars for you to watch and learn from. You can sign up for your next product training webinar or register for more by visiting our webinar calendar. And that's all we have for you today. We'd like to thank Cameron for a great session and, of course, thank our audience for your time. We hope to have you on board for our next webinar. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.